We have one more speaker to hear from before we take any questions, and Dr. Douglas Kimmel, retired psychologist and also professor emeritus from the City University of New York, has an extraordinarily unique story. And just to give you a little bit of background, I didn't know his background, and someone connected me with him, and we spoke on a conference call with 2 other people. And I went on and on and on about SAGE. And he said, well, I'm not going to tell you what he said. He's going to tell you. Dr. Kimmel, thank you.
Thank you, John. Yes, 35 years ago, when I was on the faculty at City College in New York, a small group of people got together with me, and we began meeting in people's living rooms to create this organization that became known as SAGE. It was quite an extraordinary experience. We had no real idea how difficult it was going to be back in 1978 to get any positive publicity about LGBT issues. But eventually, the organization did find a home at one of the Episcopal churches in Greenwich Village. And for me to see how the organization has grown from that to its present situation with 3 national offices, 28 regional affiliates, and a significant budget and staff. They've opened the first LGBT senior center that serves meals on a daily basis in New York City. They have a variety of programs at all of their offices. They have several offices in New York City and one in Chicago and one in Washington. Adria, who is co-chair of the SAGE Main project with me, had been involved previously to her moving to Portland as a board member of SAGE Upstate New York in Syracuse. And my partner of 43 years, whose living room one of these meetings was held in back in the 1978 days. We now live in Hancock, and so Hancock is going to be the post office box for the SAGE affiliate in Maine once we get established. Our next step is to get the formal memorandum of understanding from SAGE in New York that we are an affiliate, and of course this wonderful report that everyone's been talking about was one of the first steps in accomplishing that affiliate status. Our next step will be to have some programming going on in the state, and as you understand, that it's going to be a bit of a challenge to have a statewide organization. We're conceiving it as a kind of a center without walls. It's going to be primarily something that will be online, but with regional nodes where people actually meet together maybe once a month for some kind of activity. And then, as Dr. Garucci has pointed out, a lot of training for staff, a lot of facilitating of the idea that all of these caregivers are professionals, and whatever their particular religious values are, whatever their particular personal feelings are about gay, lesbian, bisexual, transgender people, they are professionals first and foremost. And so we expect to work with the area agencies on aging and all of the healthcare facilities to do trainings so that people will provide the kind of services that gay, lesbian, bisexual, and transgender people may deserve. Thank you for being here today.
So I asked Doug, rather than let me go on and on and on about SAGE, couldn't you have just told me what you just said? We could have saved a little bit of time. But to recognize the personal, professional, and human connection to SAGE, and then to introduce this concept to a wide variety of people who I'm going to name, you can tell that this has been truly a labor of love. It's been countless hours of work. AARP funded this work with a grant from our multicultural member engagement department. We're very, very pleased with that support. And I want to acknowledge that the report was prepared by Marilyn Galucci, Shirley Weaver, Douglas Kimmel, Muriel Littlefield, Lucky Hollander, and myself. And there really is no hierarchy to the way I just said those names. I want to be extremely fair. With the exception of me, I had the least to do with the printing, with the contents of this report, but those people were named eternal thanks for making this happen, because the notes that started this project, you know, you wouldn't recognize how it turned out today from those notes. AARP Maine would also like to thank our partners at SAGE, the Maine Association of Area Agencies on Aging, Peabody Center, Equality Maine, University of New England, the Religious Coalition Against Discrimination, and the University of Maine. The following individuals: Frank Brooks, Kim Collins, Matthew Dubois, Marvin Ellison, Brenda Gallant, Nancy Kelly, Dal Maxwell, Jennifer Putnam, Jean Vermette, and Barb Wood all helped in numerous ways to make this a reality. While planning this project, we reviewed information from the GLBT Symposium 2007 and the 5th Annual University of Maine Geriatric Colloquium, Sexuality and Aging, Dispelling the Myth. We would like to acknowledge that groundbreaking work and honor the participants who started this important conversation. We would also like to thank everyone who assisted in the statewide outreach, including the AARP task force, the stakeholder group that I mentioned, others, especially those who organized Portland and Bangor Pride events. Those were a big lift and an excellent tool to reach out to people of all ages. Finally, we want to thank the GLBT seniors who participated in this study on behalf of all GLBT seniors in Maine, which began the process of identifying the most important issues. 468 people participated in the online or paper needs assessment. 36 people attended the focus groups. Their courage to respond helped to frame the issues that a Maine SAGE chapter can focus on. Thank you very much, everybody. Any questions? We were that good.
John, would you like to talk at all more specifically about the limitations in this study? We mentioned a convenient sample, snowball sample, but there were limitations inherent in it that might be worth mentioning.
I think that's important to mention. This is by no means a scientific study. Unlike some of the reports that are released at this very podium in this room, this is, at best, I forget what we called it.
Quasi-experimental?
Quasi-experimental. We did the best we could to reach out to people. No one, when we started planning this, no one expected the difficulty that would pose. And I think that underlies some of the issue that we need to work on. If GLBT older people in Maine are invisible, they're not for whatever reason, ready to talk about it, we have some work to do. We have some opportunities ahead of us. This is not all challenges. This is about opportunity.
And putting the other side to that, many of the people who did not respond are perhaps the most vulnerable and at risk.
Exactly.
So these may be the most positive findings. Will we be able to get an actual representative sample?
That's right.
John, on page 16, there's all these findings that are very laid out with Q1, Q2. Is the Q?
Those were the actual questions.
Oh, yeah, I thought it was sort of whimsical for queer. And parallel to your report that you mentioned,
Right.
the main assessment that you were.
Right. Yeah.
Too bad. I think you should claim that as whimsy.
Wherever we can find whimsy in this world, we should claim it.
That's right.
All of us. Well, thank you again for coming. We have copies of the report. It's online on several websites as of 10:30. Look at that. It's on the AARP.org /ME website, and then you can link to it, however, for your own organizations. Thank you very much.